Islam is a barbaric culture. They made no contributions to civilization. Their contribution is blood.
All right, we got David Horowitz on a little bit late because of his Skype problems, but it's great to have him with us just to get into all this. Breaking. The church shooter in Tennessee is a black power radical who posted online, "You're more likely to be killed by a white man." He's also a Muslim out of Sudan. But that's okay. You're not hearing anything about Muslims being involved in terror attacks right now because it's okay. It was just a bunch of white people that got shot. We got to end that Second Amendment or he would have been able to protect himself. London Mayor Khan compares President Trump to ISIS, even though Khan is an Islamicist who says just get used to terror attacks. And that's their hope. I always thought they let them out with these terror attacks that we get sick of it and stop it. Oh, no, no. Khan says get used to it. They believe you'll just submit to it. So there you go. I guess Donald Trump's responsible for this latest Islamic attack on a church. Again, an attack on Christians. David Horowitz of FrontPageMagazine.com, best-selling author. Thank you for joining us to break down the latest waves.
Well, thank you, Alex. Yeah, I was just supposed to be at the Berkeley Free Speech Movement. I was actually supposed to speak tomorrow night, but the university shut it down. I put up posters, which I identified professors and activists at UC Berkeley as agents of Hamas, terrorists, supporters of terrorism. And what it said, the poster said supporters of terrorism, and it had Hatem Batsian, who is a Hamas agent, easily verifiable on the web, and Judith Butler, who said that Hamas and Hezbollah are part of the progressive movement. What did the university do? The chancellor announced that they were investigating to see whether those posters were a hate crime.
Wow.
It's not the Antifa. The Antifa people are terrible, but the real enemy is, what's her name, Napolitano, the president
Former head of
the
Homeland
University
Security.
California. Yeah.
The same one that tried to cover up Islamic terror, blocked Islamic terror investigations, and expanding on that. I noticed the San Jose Mercury News lied and said, oh, the student group canceled it in a stunt. No, it's official. They were told it was canceled by the school. So the left won't even admit they're canceling free speech on colleges. They even lie about that when they do it.
Yeah, if the university wanted a conservative speaker to teach their students the importance of having a diversity of viewpoint, it would be very easy. The chancellor could invite Milo. The vice chancellor in charge of diversity and inclusion could invite Milo to speak. What the vice chancellor in charge of diversity and inclusion did was he invited the Southern Poverty Law Center to come in this week to advise the radicals there on how to oppose Milo. That's where the universities are. They're gone. Our universities are, the left has totally dominates them. And of course, I'm not talking about the physics departments and so
Sure, but
forth.
when it comes to the political system and the police are ordered to stand down so Antifa can come beat you up. Then they say, oh, sorry, all free speech is banned by anybody who's not a communist or an Islamicist.
They did better. And when Milo showed up yesterday, the police kept all his supporters out. They let in a dozen people. There were hundreds there. It's mind-boggling.
Sure, that way, what they're saying is we're going to let you get beat up. We're not going to let your supporters defend you.
Exactly.
So, David Horowitz, how far can this go as free speech is banned on campuses, as the communists basically have had a Maoist victory taking over? Because, as you know, this is a Maoist model, in their own words, to first seize the universities.
Well, it's been a 30 or 40-year effort where they've been just unopposed. Republicans are out to lunch. They do nothing. The trustees are too busy raising money for these universities and building their empires to do anything. I've just published a book this week called The Left in the University, which is my writings over the last 30 years. I visited over 400 campuses, and it has reports of, my reports of what happened there.
I didn't know you had another book out, because I've read 5 or 6 of your books now. I only read a few 15 years ago.
I've got this series, Alex. It's called The Black Book of the American Left, and this is the 8th volume. It'll be when it's finished. The last volume is already done, but I got to wait till the spring to publish it. 9 volumes, which document how the left took over this country while the right was looking in the other way. Now, fortunately, thanks to Obama, or unfortunately, it took having a communist in the White House to teach people how dangerous the left
Exactly.
is.
So stay there. We're going to come right back. I want to ask you how we defeat this, and can the colleges be saved, or what do we do? David Horowitz, straight ahead, frontpagemag.com. Everybody knows, at least who's got a brain cell, that the elites actually are allied with Orthodox radical Islam, and they've got a cold-blooded demographic plan to, as is in the WikiLeaks, overthrow Israel, overthrow Western Europe, overthrow the United States. It's a weird anti-white cosmology, I guess because they know the West isn't racist, so they try to use our strengths against us. I mean, like I said, I read David Horowitz's, several of his books more than 15 years ago, and I thought he was crazy. And he writes about me thinking I was crazy. I guess he was right partially, because I just couldn't believe, knowing what I knew about Islam and Orthodox forms of it, that we would actually ally with it. Now it's all been proven correct and is public, and as Trump said, Obama and Hillary back to ISIS. And now you've got all this arrogant stuff where Khan, this Islamicist, is calling Trump, the ISIS backer. I mean, it's an upside-down world, and Islamic attacks now barely even make the news when somebody goes into another migrant, another invader goes in and shoots up a church. And now David Horowitz and Milo banned, from the university. They canceled it, and they just let folks beat you up and all the rest of it. So David Horowitz, where is all this going? How do we stop it? How do we turn it around? You see the NFL craziness. Why would the NFL owners go along with this? I mean, it's just political correctness is such a joke. The NFL's killing itself financially. Why such a commitment to national suicide?
Well, because there hasn't been an opposition to national suicide for so long. Not until really the Trump campaign. I mean, a lot of us were working in the trenches, but we didn't have the platform. Trump is actually organizing a popular movement to defend America. But this is a first. It's an absolute first. We're just at the beginning of this war. And let me say, anti-white racism is the essence of the attack on America. This is cultural Marxism. Marx had this idea, of course, that there are oppressors and oppressed, but that every disparity that you see is the result of some kind of an oppression by the ruling class, and that the workers would rise and overthrow them. But the workers didn't rise and overthrow capitalism. In fact, they beat us radicals up in the 60s. So the left transferred that to race, gender, sexual orientation. But race is the big one. So that every disparity, the Democratic National Platform talks about, pledges itself, Democrats, to a societal transformation, i.e. a revolution that will end institutional racism in America. There is no institutional racism in America. We outlawed it 60 years ago with the Civil Rights Act. And Obama's appointed, 1,000 judges for anybody who thinks there are no suits in court on institutional racism, because it's a myth. But this is the battering ram that the left is using against our country. And everything they do is based on racism. That's why they have to declare, the travel ban, which is a reasonable ban to make Americans safe.
And David, this just hit me. America is one of the most and I mean this in a good way, classless systems out there. Pun, we have no class, like Rodney Dangerfield joke from, you know, a Back to School movie or whatever it was called. But sitting here, we're one of the most unstratified systems. But our real elite is the liberal elite, Hollywood, the globalist, and they're the ones using culture war to bring us down. So why do we have so many rich people buying into socialism and class warfare when they know it destroys countries?
It's mainly rich people who don't feel that they earn their money. That's the way I look at it. They don't understand.
Well, I mean, that's it. Why is there so much leftist white guilt, Jewish guilt? I mean, it's just insane.
Well, it is. I mean, Shelby Steele wrote a book called White Guilt, which does explain a lot of this. But what we have now is a generation, and that's why they hate him so much. Make America great again. America first. No more guilt. That's their biggest, advantage. That the opposition or the people who should be in the opposition feel guilty and they can't defend themselves. You see that in Europe. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, this is a 1,000-year-old culture. It's, it's such a remarkable contribution to humankind.
And it's committing suicide.
Culture, and they won't defend it.
And it's not like it's committing suicide to some superior culture that came along. No, it's committing suicide to
culture. Islam is a barbaric culture. They made no contributions to civilization. Their contribution is blood.
David, we got you on 10 minutes late because of Skype problems. I've got a few more questions. Can you do 5 more minutes with us, or you have to go?
Sure.
We're going to go to break. We'll do 5 more minutes. And I got Roger Stone joining us on the eve of his Russia collusion testimony and other fairy tales that these Democrat fairy tale writers are telling us about. We'll be back. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. You know, people call me the conspiracy theorist, and what media does over the years is they take things I've said, and you notice it's never a video clip, or if it is, it's all cut together, to say stuff that just sounds insane. Or they'll take, when I've done comedy skits, and say that I'm being serious. That's why I pretty much quit doing comedy, even though I like to have some fun. And I don't just want to kiss David Horowitz's butt, okay? But he's a big guy, and after I attacked him and said horrible things about him over the years, when I actually woke up, he was a nice guy and came on the show. But let me explain. Like he tell you, he used to be a leftist too. So that's why he understands the process. And I was never a leftist, but I would still buy their propaganda because I was a good guy. And I was going to fight the racist. And I was going to fight, if Israel was too right-wing and did some things bad, I was going to, take both sides. Until I looked into it a lot deeper. And I realized that these globalists and these PR firms and George Soros were chumping me. And it came out in the WikiLeaks, of course, how they were manipulating everybody. But I read, that book. I forget the name of it. It was something like Alliance of Evil or Unholy Alliance. And then I read 3 or 4 more of his books years after I finally woke up that it was true. But I have an excuse. And I'm only telling this story not to sit there and placate or anything or sit there and talk about how I'm wrong. I'm rarely wrong. I couldn't dream that Western elites that had already got full control of the country and Europe and all this wealth would try to desecrate it and try to blow it up and try to bring it down. It's mentally ill. It's stupid. It's counterintuitive. There's no logic. But now everything Horowitz wrote 15, 16, 17 years ago is turned out to be true. If anything, it's worse than he's saying. So I still don't get the murderous hatred of West and success. And why would George Soros, a weirdo Nazi collaborator, say on 60 Minutes he's not sad for what he did when he's Jewish, and then in the WikiLeaks want to overthrow Israel and turn it over to the Palestinians who would kill each other in 5 minutes? Saudi Arabia won't take one refugee. You know why? Because they're a bunch of nomads that run around killing everybody. What do you think the Syria thing was? It was a big invasion of these vagabond groups that go around feeding on each other. And I feel sorry for the Muslims. I can't stand how they run around killing each other and are like psychotic and inbred and have hundreds of times more birth defects than anybody else. They're scary. And I didn't want to just go have these wars either. And I know a lot of them were misdirected because we go take out Saddam and put stuff in worse, just like the Arab Spring. So David Horowitz, let me just ask you this. You say the war's just starting. We're just waking up. We're just starting to have victories. It's going to be a hard row. They're going for everything to bully everybody right now into submission. I don't see it working. I think if they kill Trump, we're going to have a civil war. I mean, this is just too real now. And so you were a leftist. You woke up. Maybe you can spend a minute or two on that process. And then looking into your crystal ball, what's coming next? Because if I was a Muslim and I was coming from some hellhole, oppressed, controlled, in a cult, and I got here and could have freedom, I would love that. Why would you come from a hellhole and then come somewhere and then want to blow it up? I just don't get it.
Well, people are screwed up. I mean, that's a basic fact of life. So you're always going to find people like that. What I think is happening is that the one thing you can count on the left on is never to know when to stop. And they've destroyed a lot of the power. I mean, racist, to be called a racist used to be a really terrible thing. But now that they call everybody a racist, it doesn't have the bite it had. And that's emboldened our side, people who love this country, to fight. And not shrink. And, you know, what happened before it, when I went out like 16 years ago, they had this reparations for slavery paid 137 years after the fact to multimillionaires like Jesse Jackson. And I opposed it. I didn't have any support. I did have support from Tom Sowell and Walter Williams in opposing it. But the rest of the conservative world said, whoa, let's see if David survives this. I was called a racist from one end of the country to another. That's all changing now. We have a younger generation. You know, I watch a lot of Paul Joseph Watson's terrific videos. But people of that generation are emboldened. They're tough. They're smart. They've learned from the left how to fight politically. You know, you can think of a lot of them, Crowder and all these other people. There's a lot of young blacks you see on the, you know, social media now attacking these mythologies. I just think that the left has reached a kind of limit there. And Trump showed it. I mean, Trump, it's amazing that he won that election, showed that their bark has no bite anymore. They couldn't defeat him by calling, I mean, there's never been an individual as attacked or a public, you know, a big figure like Trump attacked so viciously from so many sides.
And that's why his base cannot desert him when he doesn't get everything done perfectly. What he's already done, he's a hero.
And the base won't. I mean, that's one thing. You know, the so-called liberal media, they have contempt for ordinary people, but ordinary people actually can think. You know, I remember when McCain, just before he got the nomination, when he ran in 2008, I was with a moral majority group in Georgia, Ralph Reed's group, and I talked to them and I said, well, if McCain gets the nomination, will you support him? And they said yes. I mean, they're not crazy, as you know, religious kooks. They're people who can think. And I think thinking America is coming to the fore now. We'll see. I mean, this fight over the national anthem is really kind of significant.
I mean, I think they jumped the shark on this one, David Horowitz. In closing, we're going to Roger Stone. I appreciate your extra time because, I mean, this is the flag, and this is America, and we're not perfect, but you don't go anywhere else and attack the flag. I mean, the players in an exhibition game, they kneeled for the flag, but stood up for God Save the Queen. I mean, it just shows that they know you're allowed to walk on America and use our openness to do that, and people are sick of it, and the NFL is losing tons of ratings, tons of money, but still the players and the union and the owners are lockstep against Trump because they still think mainstream media is everything. They have this giant blind spot. Where do you see this going? I mean, I see this as a sea change moment, what happened with the NFL.
Well, you know, them sons of bitches, because a lot of them, what he did was he unified. I mean, instead of having eight of them doing it, there's now 200. However, Trump is very, very smart when it comes to political tactics, and this is a crucial issue. America hasn't had defenders. The flag hasn't had defenders. Who would do this except Trump? And I think that people will rally behind him. And, I think a lot of these owners, look, they're between a rock and a hard place. They've got all these ball players, all these multi-millionaires that they have to keep somehow happy. They're losing money. They've got a media. I mean, ESPN, the whole sports world is left. And I think the race thing is very, very significant. Most of those players, giving the knee are black. The owners, I think, I'm sure that Robert Kraft is not going to vote for a Trump opponent in the next election.
Sure, he's just having to virtue signal because he's been bullied. And just the image of love it or leave it. You can't go anywhere else and make this type of money playing a game. It's just it's the thanklessness. I'm so tired. And then you got a bunch of white fans there in the stadium being made to feel like they're not welcome when we're one of the most unified countries in the world. And statistics show that actually a lot of this is backfiring. And I agree. The left doesn't know when to stop. Don't interrupt an enemy while they're destroying themselves. And Trump is 1 in a billion. David Horowitz, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Alex.
In his new book, find it at frontpagemagazine.com.
In ancient times, man roamed the earth in a constant state of hunting or being hunted. Introducing Caveman, where cutting-edge science meets ancient super nutrients. Secure your bottle right now at InfoWarsStore.com.